we take medication and then we get sometimes outcomes that we're not happy with. I kind of, when I talk to people, I say, like, everything you put in your mouth, you're eating. So if I'm eating this medication and you're telling me that it's targeted and it's time restrained, so if I take a mental health medication for years with an S, I'm also changing my entire body, not just trying to achieve this one thing that I think I'm going to get from this, correct?
Exactly. So, medicines circulate throughout the body and they affect all of your cells. They may be better absorbed by certain cells, they may have stronger effects on certain cells than others, but that's not typically what's happening because, if it's getting into one cell, it's usually able to get into most of them. And so, whatever you're taking in as a medication to try to help yourself with a particular problem, it is going to have ripple effects. It is going to affect your other cells as well, and not necessarily in ways you were hoping for. So, and the brain is a especially good example of this because a lot of the psychiatric medications, often they're designed to try to raise or lower the activity or the level of a particular chemical in the brain, like a neurotransmitter, like dopamine or serotonin or GABA or glutamate or acetylcholine. And but you can't, it's just impossible. You cannot create a drug that goes only to the cells that are making that neurotransmitter and only to those circuits and not to the rest of the brain. And the other thing is, even if it did, even if it could go only to those places and work only on those cells, um, the the body does something. It's kind of evolved to do this thing. All creatures, it's designed to compensate for whatever thing you're trying to do to it to change it. So it's kind of like, it's called homeostasis, which means you trying to force something in one particular direction, but the body will automatically try react by trying to get things back to the way they were before. So to try to restore that original equilibrium. So if you're trying to raise serotonin over here, you might end up lowering dopamine over there. If you're trying to raise GABA, you know what I mean? So it's like whack-a-mole. You've squashed down one problem that you thought you had, and another one's going to crop up over here because there are all these ripple effects, and you can't control them. It's an illusion. you and so I love the way you're thinking about that because it's not that simple. It's a wonderful story that we tell ourselves. Oh, I take this medicine and it raises my serotonin levels, and I need that because I have a serotonin deficit. Well, there are serotonin receptors and cells throughout the gut, for example. You might end up with constipation. You might end up with stomach pain. You might end up with digestive problems. You might end up with some irritation of the gut lining. All kinds of things can happen because you're affecting not just the brain but also the gut, and we don't have the control that we think we have.
So since most medications come from veg and well, some minerals, but mostly vegetation. You said in the book, and you said in the book, I encourage everyone to completely avoid all grains and legumes because the health risks outweigh the health benefits. Since I'm trying to make this link right now because people are constantly saying to me, but yeah, we can have these kind of nuts and we can have these kind of ancient grains and we can have they're healthy and the digestion is slow and all kind of reasons that people give why these things are okay to have, beans and all kinds of stuff. Can you please help people so wellness warriors need to understand why this is not reality?
Well, this was one of the many, really surprises for me when I started studying nutrition because I'd heard all those same things too. I'd heard that the healthiest diets are based on grains and beans and nuts and seeds. I'd heard that we needed lots of fiber for our digestive system to work. I had heard that plant proteins were healthier than animal proteins, and on and on and on. So when I started studying nutrition, I think as most people do when they start studying nutrition, it didn't take long before I was like, huh, there's actually no evidence for any of those beliefs. And worse, these foods are far more risk than benefit. There is no biological there, it doesn't make any biological sense to base our diet on grains and legumes. They are, if you're looking at the whole foods, if you're going to consider grains and beans foods, they're really not designed for, they're not fit for human consumption. We have to do all kinds of things to them to make them less dangerous and more digestible and more nutritious to us. We have to soak them and ferment them and sprout them and boil them and do all kinds of things to them, because otherwise they are toxic, full stop. So I was taught all those things. And, but if you look at the actual biology of those foods, there are so many reasons not to eat them, and just a few reasons to eat them if you have no other choice. So if you have no other choice, if you, for example, if you choose to eat a vegan diet, if you don't feel comfortable eating animal foods, you must consume legumes or you will become protein amino acid deficient. If you don't have enough money for animal foods or don't have access to animal foods, you must include legumes and nuts and seeds in your diet, or you will be suffering amino acid deficiencies. So if you have no other choice, or if you're choosing to go that way, you'll need to rely on those foods. But otherwise, there is no biological reason to eat these foods. They're the least nutritious. They're extremely low in nutrients. Grains are so low in nutrients that all of the products that we buy in the store that are made from grains are fortified with nutrients, because if you don't fortify them, there's almost nothing in them that's going to help you, and there's nothing there for you. and and even worse, the nutrients that grains and legumes appear to contain, and this is one of those things a lot of people don't know, but I'm sure a lot of your viewers know. Just because a plant food contains a nutrient does not necessarily mean you can access it, because plants have very cleverly evolved these really fascinating molecules to guard their nutrients for their own selfish purposes. We all have to protect ourselves in the world, and plants are no exception. And the grains and legumes, as well as the nuts and the seeds, the grains and legumes, nuts and seeds, they're all essentially seeds. If you cut them open, you will see a little plant embryo inside, and that embryo needs to be defended until, for sometimes for many years, it needs to sit on its own in the middle of a field somewhere, or under a tree, or wherever it's going to sit, and wait and wait and wait and wait for conditions to be right to sprout. And during all that time, it's got to hold on to all the nutrients that it's going to need to grow. So the grains, beans, nuts, and seeds are the most heavily defended, not just from a nutrient standpoint, but they're also defended with toxins to ward off predators like little creatures that will come along and try to eat them. So these are the highest risk, least nutritious whole foods, uh, uh, in my opinion, looking at the biology of it. That we could. Why would you want to base a diet on the least nutritious, riskiest food on the planet?